All right, we're continuing our study on our outline, page 2. Oops, I forgot to send this last week to the... Sorry, folks, I forgot to send it to you last week. I'll send you the study sheet today. Oh, my goodness. Well, at least I remembered, even though it was a week late. I've been trying to share a little bit of a senior moment with us each time. Been trying to share something a little bit funny. A lot of us have heard some of these things from our grandkids or from our kids. Sunday school teacher gave her young class the assignment to memorize Psalm 23. She gave him a month. Little Ricky was excited about the task, but he just couldn't remember the psalm. After much practice, he could barely get past the first line. On the day they were scheduled to recite Psalm 23 in front of the church, oh my goodness, no pressure there, huh? He was so nervous. When it was his turn, he stepped up to the microphone and said proudly, "The Lord is my shepherd, and that's all I need to know." Good job, Ricky. You got it, man. A Sunday school teacher said to her children, by the way, when Beth and Debbie Barrow taught 3-year-olds for 28 years. And some of you know this from dealing with little kids, and some of you done them in church and Sunday school. Crazy. They should have written a book. We'd come home from church, and on the way home, I would hear what the little kids said. You know, wow, my mommy was sure yelling at my daddy today on the way to church, you know. Crazy stuff. Well, a Sunday school teacher said to her children, but this is the way the Sunday school teachers pick up this stuff. It comes from home, okay? Said to her children, we've been learning how powerful kings and queens were in the Bible times. They were very powerful. But there is a higher power. Can anybody tell me what it is? One child yelled out, "Aces." So, I think some card playing was happening at home. But by the way, let me give you maybe you already do this. I hope you already do this. Text your grandchildren. Text your children. Years ago, when we first got on with Sprint, we had a cheap, barely cheap, didn't have a lot of data, didn't have texting. And Beth and I were talking one day, and that generation after us, they don't like to talk on the phone a lot. So she said, why don't we spend a couple of extra dollars, and it was only a couple of extra bucks back then, to add texting to our plan. And we did. And the first time we texted both of our kids, they answered right back. Now, you got to know when to quit. Don't make it long. Got to keep it short. But my grandkids, my granddaughter, for her 15th birthday, got a cell phone. It's under some pretty serious restrictions. It's watched and everything. And because of that, she is so good with it, so cautious. But every once in a while, in the evening, she'll say, "Hey." That's it. Beth said, "Did you get that from Ellie?" I said, "I did." I said, "You answer first and then I'll answer." So I answered, "Hey." She didn't want a lot of words, or she would have said a lot of words. You know, how you doing? But if you're going to text your kids and your grandkids, learn the alphabet thing too, okay? I've had to look up a lot of stuff, but I don't ask them what it is. And I don't ask Beth because she'll say, "Google it." But it's cool. They think it's really cool that I understand what they're saying, even if it takes 10 minutes for me to get it all together. But I like to use emojis a lot, okay? But you got to be careful with the emojis. You got to know what they really mean, okay? Some of them don't mean what they appear to mean. Our grandson at Valentine's Day a couple of years ago asked his mommy if he could text. He was, I think, about 9 or 10. If he could text Nana for Valentine's Day. He thought they were Hershey Kisses. Yeah. Look it up on your phone. Beth starts laughing. She goes, "Look what Jesse sent me." And I went, "Oh my goodness." She says, "I think he thinks they're Hershey Kisses." So anyhow, just keep in contact with your kids. It's a good thing. All right, let's look at our outline. We talked about Joshua's final words, and I'm going to send everyone a full copy of this by email. But Mike Reese emailed me this a couple of weeks ago when we started our study. It's called Finishing Without Regrets. And it was a study that was done. The article actually appeared in Israel My Glory magazine and online. So I'm going to send you the link to it. And it was an interview published in Health Digest entitled What Most People Say Before They Die. This sort of ties in with what we were talking about last week, Joshua's last words, and then Caleb's also. And they cite their 3 most common regrets: not spending enough time with loved ones, including years lost with a loved one due to a trivial disagreement. Number 2, spending too much time at work. This goes with what we said last week. Nobody ever gets to the end of their life and says, I wish I would have worked more, unless they were really lazy, okay? I said to a little kid yesterday, he was wearing a Carhartt vest. He was probably about 9 or so, and his dad had on a Carhartt jacket. And I took a hold of his vest and I said, son, if you're going to wear that Carhartt symbol, that means you got to be a hard worker, okay? Because Carhartt stands for work. And I said, don't wear this if you're going to be lazy. He says, okay. And his dad said, thanks. Well, spending too much time at work. I have some regrets about that from my earlier ministry years. Number 3, lacking the courage to pursue your passions. We're going to talk about that more in the next couple of weeks, because after we finish this part of the outline, we're going to finish the study in Ecclesiastes, the last 2 chapters, and we're going to talk about these times of our life, looking back and some of the things that we would do differently if we could. And now, it takes transparency to admit to somebody else that you didn't get it right. But if you can do that and help them, probably all of us in here were helped by somebody saying, don't do this. I tried it and it just doesn't work. I'm too old to say, hey, watch this anymore, because that usually ended up somebody getting hurt. But let's talk about these final words. I want to go back to Joshua 14. We were there a couple of weeks ago, and we're not going to labor on it, but back in Joshua 14, a little bit about Caleb, a little bit more about him. Have you ever thought about what your last words would be? You probably have if you came to a situation where you thought you were going to die.
I know. I win. Y'all are still here, so I win.
Okay, thank you.
I want to check your flag.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else have any last words? Huh? Goodbye. Yeah. See you later. How about see you later? I like the last words on Vance Havner, the old Presbyterian preacher. He was a man of few words anyhow, but on his tombstone it says, I did the best I could. I've never forgotten that. And it would be so good if you could say that at the end of your life. Well, in 14, sometimes I get a little bit confused going back and forth between Joshua and Judges, because a lot of what happens in the beginning of Judges is sort of explained in length in Joshua. But in 14, Caleb says in verse 10, as you see, the Lord has kept me alive these 45 years as he promised, since the Lord spoke this word to Moses while Israel was journeying in the wilderness. Now, this is interesting, though. It's not recorded anywhere else that when they got up to entering the promised land and God said to the nation, you're not going to go in. It's not recorded there that God promised Caleb that he was going to live to see the promised land. But he says, the Lord told me that I would do that. And he did live for those 45 more years and more than that. He says, as he promised, since the Lord spoke this word to Moses when Israel was journeying in the wilderness, here I am today. I'm still as strong as I was the day Moses sent me out. My strength for battle and for daily tasks is now as it was then. Now give me this hill country. Other translations say the mountains, which were the mountains that Anak and the Anakim were in. Because the Lord promised him on that day that he would be able to take those mountains, as well as large fortified cities. Perhaps the Lord will be with me and I will drive them out as he promised. I don't think the word perhaps there is the proper English word for the Hebrew, because there was no doubt in Caleb's mind that he was going to do this, any more than that he was going to live to this day to go into the promised land. But Joshua, we said, he seemed to be looking for the blessing and the direction of Joshua, the military leader, before he went in to do it. But he went in full well knowing, and the people that were under him, fighting under him, knew that God said, I will do this. He told the Israelites that whoever went in and whoever attacked, that he would drive them out. So anytime that a group wasn't driven out, in fact, I looked in one of the tribes, they couldn't drive them out, so they made slaves of them. That wasn't good enough, because Joshua says they're still here to that day. And if you go to those places in Israel, you'll still see the people there that the Israelites did not drive out. Now, I am glad that we're going to get to see it. We may be either dead and have new bodies, or be resurrected or raptured and have new bodies, but we're going to see the day when Israel drives all of the enemies out that should have been driven out of the land. And I don't believe it. I know it, because that's what God says he would do. Last words, your final words. Let's go to the other side of it and say, do you ever wonder? I do. What will people remember about you? A lot of the things that they remember and that you remember about your parents or other loved ones who are in heaven, a lot of them are from the time when you were younger, when you were really impacted by them. When, and little kids will remember things, amazing things. Go to any funeral of grandparents, and if you can get the kids to talk to you, the grandchildren even, they remember some amazing little details. So what people remember about us, a lot of those memories are made when they were younger, but a lot of them are made in the last years of our life. That's why it's very important for us to finish well. You can do things right for your whole life. You blow it at the end. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people are remembering. And, well, yeah, but the previous victories that we have had, the previous defeats that we've had that weren't reconciled, that weren't made right, those can be the last things that they remember about us. So we're not going to answer that question. Maybe we'll answer it later on and write those things down. Keep them secret, private. And of course, I'll reveal all of mine, because that's the way I am. I'm just stupid. I just say whatever. But it would be good for us to think about those things later on in our study. 9 things that the most productive people do. I would say these would be worth writing down. And they're not really all that profound. Number one, read. Now, I've heard people say readers are leaders and leaders are readers. That's the standard thing. That used to bother me. because I am a very slow reader. I'm not a good reader. Sometimes I can read something 3 times and say, give me a picture. I told Dr. Price a couple of weeks ago, the course that he had, that he taught me was called Discourse Analysis. It gave me a headache the first day. I cried. I did. I was like 50 years old. I cried the first day of class. Got done the first hour and had a break. And I walked up and said, Dr. Price, I think I need to take another class. I don't understand anything that you just said. I wrote it down. I'm looking at the syllabus. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. I need pictures. I need drawings. So he put his hand on my shoulder and he says, hang in there. We'll get you through it. I said, yeah, but maybe I just need, no, stay with me. Well, I did. And it's the most proud I ever was of a C. It was my only C in seminary. I valued it more than I did an A in anybody else's class. But, so Dr. Price tells me a couple weeks ago, he said, remember my course, Discourse Analysis? I said, yes, it always makes my brow wrinkle. And he says, but we got through it. I said, yes, we did. He said, well, my graduate, Fang Ping is his name. I'm glad for Fred Bennett, myself, is in Singapore. And he has taken that course, and because he knows the culture of the Orient, he has taken that course and he has visualized it with pictures and drawings. I said, Fang, where were you when I needed you? And he grinned, he goes, yes, you would like this. Well, they read, and it's not easy, but do it. They sleep, okay? Peak brain performance is 2 to 4 hours after you wake up in the morning and after you take a nap. So that means some people like Don Walker would have been really sharp and productive after Sunday school because he used to always go to sleep in Sunday school class. 2 to 4 hours afterwards. Well, that's true. I hate, what's the time of day when you are the least productive? Huh? Just before bed. True. After lunch. I hate, after lunch, I got to get up and go run errands. I can't, man, I'm sitting there one day at Titus after lunch, and I'm trying to do a prayer letter, and I was going to sleep, and I looked at what I typed, and I said, what is that about? And I got up, so I learned that in the mornings when I first got there, I couldn't do busy work when I first got there. Because it's true, 2 to 4 hours after you wake up. Well, that gets you almost to noon. And do something physical after lunch, and your brains will come back about 3 o'clock. And when they come back, go hard till 5, but don't plan on a lot for the evening, which is something that they say. Number 3, eat at home. Eat at home as much as possible. Simple meals. Not junk food that reduces your productivity. Read, sleep, and eat. That's what we do. But a lot of people aren't doing it the right way. Fourthly, you're going to love this one, especially the ladies are going to love it. Throw stuff out. Look at what you have on the basis of need. First question, do I need this? Do I need it less than I need other things? But you know what's a good question? This was in the early chapters of, and this is not an endorsement of Rick Warren at all, okay? But he has some good biblical principles in that book about, what was that one? Purpose-Driven Life, okay, which I hate the title of because it's not biblical, okay? The Holy Spirit does not drive people. I understand how he approached it, that we need to find out what our purpose, God has a purpose for us, find out what it is, and then do it. But early in his book, one of the things that he said, he talked about uncluttering your life. And it's true. If we've got all kinds of stuff, we've got all kinds of 20 projects started. Now, Phil Jones never does this. When he starts a project, he finishes it all the way. Now, I don't know about home projects, Johnny. We're not going to ask. I don't want anyone to get nervous here. But I have a hard time sometimes finishing projects. And some of them, I need to go back and just say, you know what? That's not even worth finishing. So let somebody else finish it. Some of the stuff in this uncluttering of our life, some of it has to do with things that we can look at and say, you know, I know somebody could use that. Now, I never take things to donate to Goodwill or to Samaritan Center that are junk. Okay? No, I don't take anything that I wouldn't buy, and if it's clothing, I wouldn't be proud to wear it. That's it. I don't take junk. The guy up at Samaritan Center told me that, what was it, over the previous year, 1 year, he told me that they had to dispose of 24 tons of junk per month. I said, well, buddy, you'll never have to dispose of anything I bring in here. Now, I take stuff that if I've got to throw stuff away, I bust it up, recycle it, do whatever I can to turn it back into something productive. But this was something that he said 9 most productive people do. This is a study by Dr. James Alcatran in 2015. So look and see what needs to be thrown out and throw it out, or find somebody that can use it. Have a yard sale, and whatever you put out in a yard sale, don't put it back in your garage if it doesn't sell. If it's good enough for somebody to buy, take it to Samaritan Center and give it to them. Number 5, no news. Some of this stuff's pretty tough. No news. No TV. No news. NEWS. No, N-O. Thank you. I didn't think of that. TV, radio, and he says paper too. How else are you going to get the news? Your neighbor tells you? I don't know. But I'm with him on a couple of sites here, and that is TV, because TV news now is getting so aggravating for me. It really bothers me. But we don't any longer get the newspaper. Some things reading things briefly on your phone. And the good thing about some, like even Fox News or somebody else's news on your phone, is they don't give you the whole story. You have to click for more. We'll just go with a couple of sentences that they give. He said, no news, especially during mealtime. And then only take 10 minutes to either listen or read what's happening in the day. It is good to know. Oh, by the way, they found out the reason that the Chinese had sent that spy satellite or the spy balloon over the United States. They were looking for any more classified documents that Mr. Biden might have spread out somewhere else. And seeing how far he'd spread them, they thought there might be some up in Montana out in the plains, and they went all the way across the country. I texted my hunting buddy in South Carolina today, and I said, the president said he ordered the shoot down of the plane, but I know that you're the one that did it with your deer rifle. Okay, next one, no phone or short necessary things. Let your words be few, the Bible says. Texting is good, and knowing when to keep it short and not say anything. Some things, I always like to try to reply to let the person know that I got it. Okay. I know Beth is busy, but sometimes when I text her, a thumbs up is plenty. That's plenty. I know that now if she does this, I say, oh, okay, what did I do? But next, limit your email. No work emails in the evening. Be careful what you do in the evening. It affects your sleep, affects your blood pressure. The next one is experience life. I heard Dr. Tim Lee. He was a Marine and he was a paraplegic. I think he's still alive. I'm not sure. But I heard him talk one time about about ministry, and he was in a wheelchair, and he showed some pictures of himself and to crawl across the tundra in Alaska and kill a caribou. He had a specially made pair of chest waders that came up to here, and because he didn't have legs, the bottoms in them were solid. And he crawled across the frozen tundra in those. He loved to hunt, and to show people that he could do a lot of things. And he said, I don't have to preach. I love to preach. I get to preach. Do you do what God is telling you to do because you have to do it? Then go do something else. Find out what he wants you to do and then enjoy doing it. Say, man, this is good stuff. So experience life. I wrote some notes about some of the previous ones. 2-line emails. Keep your emails short. Sometimes if you can attach a picture, that 1,000-word stuff, send them a picture. It says only meeting with your friends. Well, that's not always possible, but meetings with your friends are good. This is one, he said, the guy says he didn't like long meetings. So he said, when you have a meeting in a room, don't put any chairs out. Okay, that'd make a short staff meeting, wouldn't it? Everybody had to stand up. There was a quote in his book: companies with less meetings make more money. They're not all the time meeting and planning, strategizing, whatever. They make more money.
Really?
Yeah.
On that, one of my biggest pet peeves was being invited to a meeting that didn't have an agenda. If it didn't have an agenda, I would look back and try not to go. But otherwise, you just end up with 2 hours of
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah, the other thing is we had the last chairman of the board that we had at Titus, Roger Hunter. Some of you may remember when they used to go to church here. Roger was great at sticking on point. We've got an agenda. No, wait, that's not on the agenda. We have a short space at the end. You put the other stuff at the end right before lunch because nobody's going to talk about it very long if everybody's hungry. And so if you either don't have an agenda, which is crazy, or you have one and don't stick to it, those are not good things to do. Talking points. I have to do that because honestly, I have this blessing and you flip it and it's a curse that I can talk about anything sometimes. And I have to give myself talking points. And yeah, Rick, wait, are you going to amen that or what? Yeah, thank you.
I've come out of meetings and the only thing I had to say was why.
Uh-huh. What did we just do? I was in an ordination one time at Grace a few years ago. It was Gary Gouge's ordination, actually. So that shows you how many years ago it was, probably 25 years ago. And about an hour into it, I stood up and they said, okay, we're done here. This is stupid. I said, we got this agenda and you guys are asking questions that you want Gary to agree with you on. We didn't come here to get him to agree with us. We came here to ask him what he believes. And if he believes what the Word of God says, then we ordain him. I said, otherwise it's just donuts. And of course, Dr. Orley said, now, Fred, just settle down. So I said, okay, we're going to get back on it and let's quit asking him to give you his opinion of something. And then shake your head if he agrees with your opinion. So it went quick after that, but got to stay on point. Good point, Mark. Anything else? We get into this business stuff. You guys that are in business and companies, please just chime it in. Okay, 9 things productive people do differently. Psychology Today. Oh no, are we going to take something out of psychology book? Yeah, I guess so. Number 1, own your time. Your time is a valuable possession. My dad used to remind me, your time is worth something. And remember that when you take somebody else's time, it is worth something too. So you're taking value from them for that day. So be careful about that. It is a valuable possession. Um, block out time. This is under the same point. Block out time without technology. Block out some time that's just going to have to be quiet, especially like family time. Yes, ma'am. I knew you'd raise your hand for that one.
We block out time that is for technology, as in, okay, y'all can have devices, TV, whatever, for 30 minutes, and then the rest of it is without it, rather than the other way around. Like, in our house, the TV might get turned on once a month. I mean, it's just, we put all the devices away as a general rule, but I think everybody sleeps better that way, and you talk more. So
Yeah.
that's kind of backwards.
Especially the talking more stuff is good. Talking at the table, especially at a meal, talking. This sort of relates back to the previous study. On your phone, don't take every call. There should only be certain people that are able to call you and get through. Now, I have this thing on my phone, and I've actually learned how to use it, where if somebody calls and I can't answer right then, it gives me a choice of like three things. One is, can I call you later? And another one is, sorry, I can't take your call right now. I don't know. But anyhow, so I try to use one of those to let the person know I'm not just ignoring them. But then I try to call them back in a reasonable amount of time. But there are some people that you're best off, your blood pressure is better if you don't call them back and talk to them. Maybe text them back. Yes?
So my phone has a screener, and it will come up and say, your call is being answered by a Google screener. Please state your name and the purpose of your call. And I can have auto responses, or I can text, and Google will respond for me. So I don't have to actually talk to the person. But they are required, like, just state your point. What do you want? I do that with a lot of like doctor's offices, and that I don't necessarily talk to you for 20 minutes. Just tell me what you want.
This is almost sort of like throwing out the clutter, because owning our time, deciding who is going to be able to take our time. And this is not a matter of superiority. That's just not, this is a matter of, I've got my family, family's my priority, okay? She's right, she could have calls from different financial people, lawyers, whatever. And now the hard time that I have is my phone, I don't have all of my supporting pastors and so forth in my phone. And sometimes people change numbers. So sometimes I get calls that are, I look and I say, well, I do have a supporting church in that city. And I've tried to answer a couple times and it was always bogus. So somebody said, just if it's important, they'll leave a message. Why didn't I think of that?
Put on your voicemail. Please follow up with an email.
Yeah. Surround yourself with smart people, smarter than we are, okay? And then listen to them. Sometimes it's your kids, okay? I've learned to listen to my adult kids, and I love it. They're smart, and it makes them feel good when I say, you make me smarter because I didn't even think of that. So good way to do that. View busyness as negative. He makes a point that busyness robs our focus. It wastes our time. It's just, let me see. It wastes our energy too. So view busyness as a negative. Now, the only time busyness is good is when you're Fitbit and you need to keep moving, okay? But that's not the same. Number 3, redefine ideal worker. You and other people. It doesn't mean you work harder, but you work better and smarter. That's what my dad used to say. He said, I can't run as fast as I used to, so I got to run smarter. And I think this is for us at this time in our life. We got to learn to run smart because we can't run as hard as we used to. Rick, you had a thought on your,
I have what?
you had a thought ready to come out, didn't you?
I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Anytime you got something to throw it in there. Don't want Mark to be the only one that
You know, Chuck,
throws good stuff in.
Chuck Swindoll, in demand all the time for people that want him to come speak. But he had someone call him and said, well, got this great group of men and sure like for you to come and speak to them and share with them. He says, no. He says, I can't do it. He said, no, you won't come? He says, no. He says, I have some plans with my family. We're going to do this and that. And the guy couldn't believe it. He said, you mean you're not going to come and speak to these men? No. He says, I'm not going to do it. He says, my family and I are going to do this. So,
Keyword, family.
yeah.
Family. And that doesn't always just include your physical family. It could be people that in your mind and heart are part of your family, your Christian family, things that you all need as far as time from the rest of us. Those are important things too, very important things. Number 4, intentionally, temporarily leave important tasks unfinished. Now, I never have any problem with this one. I've got like 8 or 10 of them out in my garage right now, which I'm working on. The kids used to wonder about all the stuff we had at the house, and then we started having yard sales, and I always send them a picture. Last yard sale, okay, it's not really, but they know I'm getting closer. And I'm going to have one more big one this year. So I'm going to invite all of you to come and see if you want to trade antique old stuff. No, actually,
Stuff you've had for 30 years that you really hadn't.
no, I don't keep stuff that long anymore. No, unless there's something sentimental to it, and then I hang it up on the wall where it's not in the way. But I'm pretty sure there's a couple of pretty good sized containers of material that we're going to pass on to you because Beth's mom used to do a lot of sewing and things. So anyhow, and whoever else sews needs, I don't know, do you sew things for your, okay. Anyhow.
No more for my kids, but I said.
Oh, no more for your kids. They're too big, yeah. Okay, and the next one, habitually step back. Look at the big view or the big picture instead of just what's happening right now. My favorite NASCAR racer, and it's sort of funny that when I started declining my interest in NASCAR was when this guy retired. Number 99, Carl Edwards. And I heard him say one time, drive for the last lap, not this one. I'm looking at the big picture. And he was one of the only, and I think maybe Mike can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but he's one of the only really successful NASCAR drivers in the last 20 or 25 years, probably him and the number 18, Bobby Labonte. Those are probably 2 of the only guys in NASCAR that didn't make it super, super, super big, like win 7 or 8 championships, like the other guys have done. But when they retired, nobody cursed them either. Nobody said, you know what? I'm limping today because you bumped me in the last lap and flipped me and you did this intentionally and all. They didn't do that. And there were times that I could see those 2 guys driving, and on that lap, they didn't knock somebody out that was in front of them into the wall and get ahead because they were 1/3 into the race. And they maybe didn't win the race, but they finished well. So I've never forgotten what he said, drive for the last lap, not this one, because what we see now many times seems to be more urgent and important to correct it now, take care of this now. Just back it off and don't rush it and see what you can do.
Is that called the tyranny of the urgent?
Tyranny of the urgent, yeah. Yeah. Next, help others strategically. And what he meant by that was help others by empowering them, not enabling them. You can You can help somebody by teaching them how to do something so that they don't have to rely on you to do it. Um, Now, unfortunately, some people's knowledge so far surpasses people like me that they would have to spend the rest of their time of their life teaching me how to do what they do, like Phil. Okay. I just hand him the tools when he comes to do something at my house. And, would you, he said it a couple of times. He doesn't say it anymore. Would you like me to teach you how to do this? I said, no, not if I can pay you to do it, because it's electricity. um, there are some things, like my dad said, if you're going to dance, you got to pay the fiddler. Okay. There are some things that your time is worth something too. So pay someone who is skilled at it and know that it's done right. Mark.
A recent example that a grandson needed help trimming out baseboard and shoe mold around the house. So I went over there and we got started on the project, got halfway done. I was busy and I saw that I wasn't going to be able to finish it. So I made sure he understood how to do it safely, left my tools with him. And he tackled it and did it himself. So that was an example of empowerment, and I'm not going to be here forever. So he can do stuff and teach his kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But you not only empowered him, you encouraged him, which is part of empowerment, to teach somebody how to do something. But then the part of the blessing, you can do this. You really think I can? Yeah, you can do it. Well, it's not going to be as good as you. Well, hey, 20 years ago, my job wasn't like this either. So good for you, Mark. It's great. And
I haven't gone back to see if it looks bad or not.
now I bet, you know what, using your tools, I bet he was so careful, and because he wants you to come back and look at it and be proud. So, okay, just a couple of more. Anybody else have anything that they've empowered somebody to do?
Make them coffee.
What?
When they work on the house, I make them coffee.
Good for you. That empowers people, doesn't it? Yeah. We went to Ukraine years ago, early into our ministry over there. I realized how important this empowerment thing was. And we were doing everything when we got over there, and we were enabling them, and some resentment built up. When you enable people, there's going to be resentment. Something like 85% of all domestic disputes between husbands and wives are in a situation where the man is not working. Because God has built men, women too, but men with something inside of us where when we can accomplish something, that's why I say, I wish you could have seen the look on your face when your grandson finished that job. You'll see it when he shows you the job, because you go, yes, I did this. So when we went over there this time, I said to my brother-in-law, I said, we're not going to do this. They're going to lead the clinics. They're going to do all the arrangements. That's it. They're doing it. And he said, well, we think they can. I said, sure they can. They can do it better than we can. I had this was first made clear to me back in the upper 90s, like 98 or 99, when they asked me to come and share the gospel with a lady at a clinic that we had. And the guy who was translating for me, I looked at him, I said, David, you don't need me. Do it. Just do this. Just tell the lady. And he had never by himself, he knew what to say and how to share the gospel, but he'd never shared the gospel with anybody before and never done it and seen him come to Christ. And this young woman came to the Lord. Oh my goodness, he was on top of the world. Next week, I'm going to start out with a story about a clinic that we had in a village where I stepped aside and said to the young man, Misha, you're going to be the leader of this whole clinic. This is your village. You go there every week, and I'll tell you how it came out, but it was cool. Beth.
So I serve an American Heritage Girls with like a whole bunch of little girls and moms. And the thing that I've told them for 10 years that I think is empowering to them is this is a safe place to fail. And them to succeed. There is no "I told you so." We just come alongside and help you to succeed the next time, but it's a safe place to fail. And like my house is that way too for my kids. Like they don't have to be afraid of failing, and I think that empowers them to try and often to succeed.
Yeah, it does. It encourages and blesses them. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for being here and helping us in our study, helping us to, even as we're studying, everybody here is remembering things that are important for us to be reminded of. I pray that in the next few weeks, as we wrap this study up, that we will all walk away being stronger and better in living this part of our life and fulfilling your purpose for us, in laughing at ourselves and empowering others and blessing others, and in being better stewards of our time and our possessions. Thank you for teaching us these things so patiently in Jesus' name. Amen. I'm sorry, Mary Jane, did you have something?
I have